Here we go. Katie, would you like to introduce yourself and kick us off?
Sure. I don't know if I have a video on. I'm in my car, but I'm Katie Gunsel. I am obviously Kelly's sister and a realtor here, and we kind of collaborate, even though our industries are so different, but just kind of how to like help each other. And wellness is a big thing. I hit my 40s, and she's constantly helping me kind of navigate this whole new phase of everything and changes. So yeah, I'm excited that we're able to collaborate and do this, and yeah, excited to hear what she
Awesome.
teaches me again.
Katie and I are Irish twins, so we're in sync more than anything. But yes, we're both in a phase of entrepreneurship, which is a lot of hats, and we're thick as thieves. So it's really fun to do something jointly. And again, thank you all for being here. Um, Katie, can you see? I'm sharing my screen, but thumbs up. Can you see yourself? I have your
I
video
see.
going. Okay. I just want to see. So I'm going to minimize that now and get the party started. So routines over resolutions. Most people drop their resolutions by January 8th. And I, in fact, actually fall into that category. I came off such an amazing, indulgent trip in Australia. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to have a dry January. And I got back and settled in. And there's been quite a few stressors. I'm like, okay, I'm going to have a damp January. So it's funny enough, I'm giving this presentation and I can't even hold a resolution, but I also know I rely much more on routines, as routines is such a dominant pillar of health. But overall, when I was 8 years old, I quickly learned the benefits and the power and the necessity of a routine. If I didn't follow a routine as a newly diagnosed type 1 diabetic, an autoimmune disease form of diabetes, there's type 1, type 2, there's even type 3, and there's gestational. But type 1's an autoimmune disease, and I was diagnosed on my 8th birthday in second grade. And if I didn't follow my routine, mainly because I had to follow a regimen with my medication, I'd have a seizure. And insulin is a lot better these days, but at a very young age, I really learned the power of routine, the topic of today. But more so, I've been a dietitian since 2007. I've been in private practice since 2012. And as a dietitian in private practice, I've coached over 1,000 people. And I used to just kick off and, walk through what's your diet, what's your lifestyle, what's your exercise like. But now when I do private concierge coaching, I really zero in first on what people's typical routine is and where we can make tweaks and adjustments to overall set the individual up for success. And I believe having a routine, looking at your routine, refining it can give you an edge. We all have 168 hours in a week, but each of those hours are not equal in productivity or attention. And I've come to know a routine as the most important pillar of health that can help you reach your goals with ease and change your life. Before you build your plates or source your meals, or you need to unlock found time. And overall, we need to breathe, we need to produce, we need to rest, we need to move, and above all, we need to enjoy life. And let's dive in. Let's see if I can get my slides. There we go. So I think it's important to just distinguish what's the difference between a routine and a habit. A routine is a broader set of activities or tasks that are intentionally planned or regularly performed along a specific schedule. But a habit, on the other hand, is a specific behavior that becomes automatic through repetition, and it's typically a component of a routine. One of the most powerful secrets of effective leaders today is establishing a daily routine. And I actually, somewhat in the few slides ahead, have highlighted some celebrities, and I know we're not all celebrities, some entrepreneurs, and I've highlighted what their daily routines are. And it's interesting to see what overlap there is. We'll get to that here soon. But overall, being intentional about a simple routine makes all the difference. And following a routine that is outlined could be a win-lose, but having an intention with your routine can be win-win. So what do I mean by that is, like, we're going to talk about routines. We're going to talk about a lot of things today. I don't want your, walk away from this. Okay, when I wake up 10 minutes later, I need to do X. By 9 p.m. or excuse me, 9 a.m. I need to do Y, and then I need to accomplish a Z by a set amount of time. Really, we need to use a routine for a goal or an intention we have. So my three intentions for 2024, which I'm pretty transparent about, is number one, protect and nurture my sleep more than I ever have in my life. Number two, process stress better. I'm going through a full house renovation, which I've mentioned to many, and I don't want to give too many calories or energy to that. But there's just been a lot more surprises that it's just been a different journey than I expected. And I can't, control the stresses that come my way, but I can surely control how I process them. So, number one, my intentions for 2024 is sleep. Number two is stress. And number three, I'm not going to go on a Whole30. And I've already mentioned, I'm not going to have a dry January or dry 6 months. And I do applaud those people who do that. It is a really big trend. But I'm having intentions to be intentional with my food, to just be really present with what I'm choosing to eat. I'm not being restrictive. I'm not cutting out groups. I'm just being intentional. But with those goals, I'm thinking about how can I set myself up through the day with a routine to succeed. Overall, I thought this quote was fitting to be right here. By recording your dreams and goals on paper, you can set in motion the process of becoming the person you most want to be. Put your future in good hands, your own. And I think pen and paper is one of our best tools all of us have access to. And putting our goals on paper can help us establish our intentions or routines or areas that we can create some change. Overall, I did kind of bunt it up against each other, but routines versus resolutions. What don't work, resolutions only succeed with a smaller percent of people. Again, if you are one of those smaller percent of peoples, continue on. I recall when I was pregnant with my first child, so that would have been 11 years ago, I went on a baby moon with my husband, and it was shortly after the new year. And he said, "This is going to be my last Diet Coke." And in fact, that was his last Diet Coke. And 11 years later, he has not touched Diet Coke. So it was very simple. It was very direct. It was very specific that he's maintained that black and white resolution that's carried on for over a decade. And I think that resolutions, if they are very small, specific, achievable, that they are very fitting. But overall, more of our goals are better energy or better sleep or balance my hormones or lose weight or lean out, et cetera, where it's not as clear cut, yes or no decision and so forth. And that's where routines come into place. So resolutions overall, they lack specificity. They can come along with an all or nothing mindset. They lack an action plan and accountability. And resolutions have varied success rates. A lot of people drop off, as I mentioned, by January 8th, which is just a week and a hair past the new year. And overall research suggests that a considerable number of people, if they have a resolution, completely stops within 6 months. So over what does work, if you follow me on social media or you get my Sunday newsletter, you've probably seen me throughout December talk about, do you have a word of the year? And I find a word of the year works for me and a subset of my clients and people. And that word of year is basically a daily mantra, something to easily remind myself of where I want to go. I gave a presentation in November, or excuse me, I believe it was October. And I brought up the idea of word of the year, and someone in the audience said, my word of the year was intentionality. And they said it literally changed my life because I was very intentional with my yeses and nos. And it really changed the trajectory of what that individual did. So word of the year can be very powerful. Funny enough, Katie and I talk daily. We have the same word of the year. My word of the year is balance. And for me, balance might mean something different for my sister, but for me, balance is balance my blood sugars. I'm a type 1 diabetic. That's a daily goal. Number two, balance my hormones, get my stress in check. And number three, balance by having stronger boundaries. So I've been getting warmer and better of what I'm saying yes to. And if you walk away from today's talk, say no to everything that's not a hell yes. Say no to everything that is not a hell yes. And even business opportunities I have coming up, I'm really scaling is this a hell yes? Is this a good use of my time? Is this pulling me away from something else that I'd be better reserving my energy for? While I was in Australia, I read this book, and I'm going to mispronounce this Dutch word. The Dutch word is niksen, and niksen is the Dutch art of doing nothing. And that's really hard for me to do. If I have any free time, let's find efficiency with that time. But being niksen, or Nick for short, appreciating doing nothing can give me more energy. It's better for our health. It's better for a happier family. It provides for a healthier brain, which is something we should all be thinking about. Stress really impairs our brain health, and our brain is one of the most important organs in our body if I were to select one. Having downtime, carving out time for doing nothing can make us more efficient at tasks. It can enhance self-awareness and creativity, and it also can give us better sleep. So that's something I'm also focusing on here. But going back to things that work, word of the year, I went on a bit of a tangent there. Having an intention is probably the groundwork, the foundation, along with a wellness vision for what a routine should be. A mantra is a statement, just like a word, but a statement in the present tense of something you want to achieve, and you state it as if it's already happening. So it'd be like clients who want to lose weight. The statement could be, I am my leanest self on a daily basis, making optimal choices. And that's a little wordy, but a mantra can be a statement in any shape or form that is oriented around your goal. Things that do work, routines. That's the point of today's presentation. And overall, the foundation of success starts with a vision. So we're actually going to all doodle a wellness vision. It probably won't be the full grasp of the wellness vision, but we'll open up for conversation here in a few slides overall. But the latest research, another thing that works or worth mentioning is some research on self-control has actually shown that people who have the most self-control are in fact tend to be happier and healthier. They have more money, they have more friends, they are more successful in life than others. It's not because they have the strongest willpower. It's really because they set their worlds up to remove unwanted cues of behaviors that they don't want to participate in, preventing temptation from happening in the first place. So as we talk about our wellness vision, we're going to talk about a routine that each of us can adopt, and it doesn't need to be the 24 hours of the day. It could just be a pocket of time that acts as a domino. But also think about how to set up your environment. I thought I'd take a chance. There's some people on today's call that don't know me, and we will be passing out a recording of this, but I'm Kelly Schmidt. I'm a mom to two kids. I have an 8-year-old girl, a 10-year-old boy, and a furry dog that's almost 3. I've been type 1 diabetic, as I mentioned, kicking off this presentation since my 8th birthday. And I don't want you to do the math here, but since Thanksgiving of last year was also my birthday, that's been 32 years. So I've had this autoimmune disease most of my life and most of my knowing. But I would say my fire of being the passionate nutrition enthusiast, the passionate dietitian I am, is really all about my dad. So my dad, aunt, uncle, in short, were type 1 diabetic. My aunt has passed away, unfortunately, because of complications of our disease. My uncle is doing quite well. He is the most regimen and routine person I know. Blood sugars thrive on routines. And then we have my dad. He was the oldest male in his family who was a leader and took care of a lot of things. But he was diagnosed when he was 17, and he always followed his doctor's orders. However, it wasn't enough. So when I became a senior in high school, I actually found myself in the waiting room of the hospital at OSU Medical Center with him in the operating room getting a dual kidney pancreas transplant. So my dad was in kidney failure. My parents didn't communicate this to us because we had no idea if he'd ever get a transplant, and we didn't know when that day would come. So my parents found out at midnight. The next day I was shuttled to the hospital with my mom and dad. All my siblings were off at college. And in that waiting room, I made a decision that I'm going to prevent any daughter or father from being in the position of ill health by having mismanaged blood sugars, but more so not practicing holistic nutrition and medicine, and thinking outside of the box and using our intuition and our advocacy to ask for what we need and want. And overall, I'm a wellness enthusiast. I love public speaking. I teach yoga and strength classes a handful of times a week. I coach clients privately, one-on-one. I also run group programs. I was kicking off asking Eileen about her experience with this cleanse. This is a newer cleanse I've moved to. I've run a cleanse in my private practice since I opened over 10 years ago. And cleansing the body is so important for optimal health. You know, toxins are obesogens, and they can be the hurdle preventing weight loss. They can be the hurdle driving blood sugar derangement. They can be the hurdle driving poor gut health. And most disease begins in the gut. I think initially all disease begins with stress, but cleansing seasonally with the change of seasons is a very holistic practice and something I run with clients. I also have a continuous glucose monitor program that's for people who are not diabetic. You can throw on a little tiny device on your arm the size of a quarter and watch your blood sugar. And it's really interesting to see how people's routines impact their blood sugar. And often it's not what we're eating, it's what's eating us. So getting back to that stress component, again, where routines are very healthy for the brain, the body, stress levels. But this is probably the most magical program I run for non-diabetics in my entire company. And it's a 4-week program. So I have that here if any of you are interested or have questions on it, just putting it on your radar, but that's not the point of today's talk. And again, I'll pass out slides to this deck for you to rehearse any of these details. But I also, as a dietitian, I practice in a more functional or holistic manner. And I have these unique blood labs that are harder to get with a conventional doctor, but I have the Wheat Zoomer. This is my #1 lab that I do with all private clients. And it'll just tell me the integrity of your gut health. It'll tell me your susceptibility to celiac. It'll tell me how optimal your good bacteria is to bad and much more. Food sensitivity. Everybody wants a food sensitivity test. I actually caution people from spending money on it. I think there's just unique situations that it's beneficial, but it's something I do. Metabolomics testing is a form of a micronutrient test. We all have nutrient gaps, and our bodies won't function well if we have nutrient gaps. But this one will really help me understand people's metabolism and what they might be missing and what I can do to help repair that. Dutch hormone testing is sex hormone testing. Katie's quite familiar with that. I'm familiar with that. As we've entered this second puberty after the age of 35, it's really important to understand your hormones. If you have not hit menopause and you're just like, I feel out of whack, a doctor will do a blood draw for sex hormones, but that actually won't give you the full picture whatsoever. A Dutch test better will. It'll tell you what the free metabolites are, and that's what dictates your symptoms of how you feel. And stool testing, of course, is basically like a report card of health. So I really enjoy that too. So a little bit about what I do, but let's move on and talk about this wellness vision. So a wellness vision is the foundation of any nutrition initiative, any health initiative. And it's important you bring out pen and paper, or maybe you type on your phone, but somewhere to grasp what your wellness vision is. So if you would like, go ahead and grab a resource to take some notes, but I'm going to just walk through what a wellness vision is and have you answer a few questions to kind of paint a picture for yourself, because our needs are all unique. And I think this is a good first step. So overall, a wellness vision is a compelling statement of who you are and what health behaviors you want to do consistently. Wellness is a presence of well-being and the culmination of life and healthy habits. It's not an absence of disease or illness. Wellness is the quality or state of being in good health and one's best possible health, especially as an actively sought after goal. Wellness is the condition of good physical and mental health, specifically when maintained by proper diet, exercise, and life habits. A wellness vision is best written in the present tense as if it's already happening. So I'm going to ask a few questions that'll kind of help you bring together what your wellness vision is, maybe for just the week, maybe for the month, and maybe for the year. And I'll go into what you can do on a daily basis or should do on a daily basis for a routine. But #1, maybe just start writing. My wellness, my well-being vision is. As you write what your well-being, your wellness vision is, you can also note challenges that you have. For many of my clients, for myself, I think a challenge is often time. Continuing on, and again, I'll have notes for you following up today's call. So continue to write. My wellness vision is, my challenges are, the strategies that will help me realize my vision and meet the challenges are. So strategies can be like setting up your environment differently. It can be some of the dominoes I have here coming up. Also noting the strengths that I can draw upon to help me realize my vision. Or even noting what your motivators are. So I've written a number of wellness visions for myself. I've written business visions, and there's so much overlap, but my wellness vision can really be about what I want to attain. I am well rested, getting into my flow, processing my stress, and I'm very intentional with my food, with smooth, beautiful blood sugar levels and balanced hormones. and a full cup to show up for my family and business. Another examples or details I would input is I wake up daily well rested. I start the day with a moment to ground myself doing X, Y, and Z. I move my body, I consume and nourish myself with whole foods, and so forth. So I don't want to spend too much time here, but I'd love to open up if people are willing to share maybe a summary of what your wellness vision is. And I might be asking too quickly, but has anyone ever thought about what their wellness vision is? How do you want to see yourself this year for 2024? Maybe when someone shares, it can really inspire another. So if you'd like to participate, maybe unmute yourself. I know we have a small sample of people live today.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. My a vision I have, and it's wellness, but I really want to start meal planning.
Yeah.
To just help my whole everything, sanity, diet, everything. I think if I just really proactively start really meal planning, I think that would kind of solve a lot of my stress.
Yeah. And what do you think your challenges are? Probably time and knowing recipes,
Yeah.
maybe. Time, recipes, knowing. Also, those little
Yeah.
humans we take care of, what will they like? Probably.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Appeasing everyone's appetite, but having it somewhat planned. So there's no arguing over what's for dinner.
Yeah. I think with kids, you know, it usually takes them 8 exposures to like a food, and it takes 8 exposures of tasting, maybe even just feeling the food, depending how young they are. But I think having a 3-bite rule could be helpful with this vision you have for the year. And also just jotting down 3 go-to breakfasts, 3 go-to lunches, or maybe even 2, and then 3 to 4 go-to dinners, and always making bulk. So you automatically don't have to cook again the next day and just simply have leftovers in some shape or form. But I really like that wellness vision. It's realistic. But also see yourself putting it in place by carving out that time to prep, to plan. Maybe it's seeing yourself on a Sunday. A Sunday well spent brings a week of content. But also know it doesn't mean labor for 8 hours. It means keep it simple. I love having a whiteboard in my kitchen, and I literally will jot out MTWTHF, and then weekends are always Vogue or Rogue. And I'll just jot out sheet pan dinner, slow cooker chicken, and I'll just have this general idea. It's nothing concrete, but I'll see those basic ideas, and then I'll say, okay, let's check my inventory, and I'll actually get into this more in one of my dominoes. But thank you for sharing. It created quite a good discussion out of that. Does anyone else want to share? Maybe what wellness vision they have for 2024?
Kelly, can you hear me?
Yeah, I see Sarah talking.
Okay, sometimes my AirPods get kind of wonky when I think, you know, I'm type 1 diabetic also, and I feel like a place where I kind of get stuck is like I always think that my resolution should like revolve around my medical condition. You know, it's like, okay, how can I have better blood sugars or do this or do that? So I've sort of tried to like, in the spirit of like doing something different, I was like, okay, so I'm going to think about my bigger picture of health, but like try and remove like the diabetes component of it, because that is so a part of all of it anyways. You know, it's hard for that to not be a part of it. So I just think about, you know, like getting strong. I mean, I'm a big runner. I run all the time. I do yoga all the time, but I never strength train. So I'm like, okay, this is my year. I'm going to strength train because that's going to then, you know, make me a better runner and make me, you know, stronger yogi, but also help with my blood sugars. You know, it's like hard to move away from that when that's just like the world that we live in, you know. But so I would say like strength training as a way to, you know, get stronger in all areas, mentally, physically, and it will also help manage diabetes.
Yeah, I really love that. And it's actually, I teach a tween class to 10 to 12-year-old, and all the girls, that my goal this year is to get stronger. And I think with the wellness vision is think about what your challenges are. Is it lacing up and going for a run is easier? Would it be beneficial to throw money at the problem, and not a lot. You know, my Peloton app is $12, but I do a lot of body weight training on there, and it's really good for muscle training. So you don't need equipment, but they of course have, you know, you can buy a set of dumbbells, and there's a variety of apps that can help you get there. Or signing up at like a boutique studio that might be, you know, yoga sculpt. I love yoga. I don't know if you even want to bleed into that, but it's weightlifting and
Yeah.
yoga. But like sometimes throwing money at the problem will help things get into action. But whatever
Yeah.
our wellness vision is, make sure the goal is so easy and achievable to initiate that you can be very successful at first and then gain momentum. So I mentioned I have two kids, and I share this story often, but I have an 8 and 10-year-old, and I lost all leg strength. It was so hard to do a lunge. So every day I told myself I had to do 6 lunges, 3 each side. And if I started those 6 lunges, I often did 20, but it was such a realistic
Hmm.
goal to initiate. So I think with your strength, I love that. It'll benefit you far and wide. Um, Maintaining muscle mass after the age of 30 is so essential for metabolism, for thyroid health, for blood sugar control, for estrogen balance, all the things. So knowing the motivators is awesome, but also think about where you can tuck it in and what is fun and how you can commit to it in a realistic way. But I love that. I love
Oh,
that goal so much.
yeah. Okay. Well, great input. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Before moving on, does anyone else want to share?
I can go, Kelly.
Awesome.
There's kind of, I guess, kind of two pieces to this. Like one, our family goal that my husband and I are working on is we have a 6-year-old and then 3-year-old twins as we're trying to have family dinner. And at least, but we tried to make it really small, like only 3 times a week. And we have like pizza every Friday. So we're counting that as
Yeah.
one. And
Yes.
we still need to figure out what does like success look like, because they don't,
Yeah.
the 3-year-old twins they're just crazy boys, and they don't, they act like you would
Sit.
expect 3-year-olds to. They don't sit. They, do we give them a toy? So they like, I don't know. We haven't figured out quite what's important to us. Is it that they sit? Is it that they eat? So we're
Yeah.
figuring that out. But then, as Kelly knows, I didn't eat meat for over 12 years, and that hasn't served me as I've aged. So I'm trying to figure out now how to just incorporate the right amount of protein in without, it's been a process. I'm trying to not gain weight, or gain the right weight. So I did write down all the things you said. I need to write it out in a more kind of laid out, articulate, but that's kind of the core of what I really want to do this year is
Yeah.
get the protein in the right way.
Yeah, I love that. There's actually a study that came into my inbox yesterday. I was reviewing pretty closely, and it was on the national. Gosh, I'm gonna misstate this. The national NIH nurses study, and it was like 1970s to 2016. So I think it's important to see like how long ago that study was. And it found that women who had a combination of plant and animal protein were far better for lean body mass, aging, and even mood. So I think as you go into increasing your protein, continue to keep it plant and animal based. Of course, seafood and eggs too. Eggs are Mother Nature's multivitamin, but always seek that combo. So I'm living in my house. I can't say that enough, but we don't really have a kitchen right now. So I got this kind of pre-made beef meal from Trader Joe's, and I was like, oh, there's not a lot of protein here to feed the 4 of us. So then I threw in a bunch of rinsed canned beans. So I always pair often my animal protein with beans, one, to get that good fiber for gut bacteria, also the good carbohydrate for blood sugar stability. But I always think, how can I have multiple sources of protein in a meal? So I don't know if that helps or feels even more overwhelming. One other thing I'll tuck in, one of my weekly routines is walk with 3 friends every Friday morning at 6 a.m. All 4 of us don't always come to fruition, but more often than not, there's at least 2 of us. And we always talk all things motherhood. And one thing I adopted for one of my good friends for the last year is when we do have the opportunity to have that family dinner, is we always ask, what's your rose, your thorn, and your buffalo? So the rose is the good of the day, the thorn's the bad of the day, and the buffalo is the funny. And the conversations that come out of that, and I think the unity is just magical. So I think whatever can just momentarily, even for 2 minutes, create the family to connect all on the same page could be a a level of achievement for you. So I'm just throwing out some ideas. Hopefully you find them helpful. But thank you for sharing. I love that, all of it.
Yeah,
Let's see,
sure.
Jen. I think I saw
Yes.
Jen. Come on in, Jen. What do you got?
I was going to say two things. One is we decided to try and get more seafood. And my husband and I are both kind of, I don't know, old school granola. Like we want it to be like a sustainable and all this. So this week I started ordering from a place in Alaska that's all like sustainable
Oh,
fish. And I'm going to have it
yeah.
shipped. We just decided to, speaking of throwing money at a problem, decided
Yeah.
to have seafood shipped to our house every month. That way it's like, I'm
Yeah.
too cheap. I'll use it.
Yes, exactly. Too. It's
I
like,
can't pay the money and not use it.
yeah, it's almost a form of accountability. As you know, you're investing your hard-earned money into something, you're more likely to do it. And I feel the same way when I sign up for a $20 workout class or, various things. So I love that. What's the
that's one
company
thing.
name in case
It's
people
called
want to know?
Sitka. It's like a city in Alaska. It's called Sitka Seafood.
Okay,
And
awesome.
my friend's sister lives in Sitka, and it's like a really small town in
Oh,
Alaska.
fun.
And so it's all like locally owned and everything. So
Awesome.
we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But the other thing, which is more of like a vision, but not, I don't have a plan for, is I just feel like I do the same exercise all the time and I don't love any of it. So I'm going to try to once a month do something I've never done before and see if I like have some sort of passion for it.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's great. And there's so many different studios. I think the biggest change in the fitness industry is we've gone from these like mega gyms to all kinds of flavors to Pilates to I think there's one called like the Butcher Shop or something that's like weightlifting. Then there's the CrossFit, there's the bar, all the things. And I think try them all out because we need our goal, our routine to be fun. We need our food to be pleasurable. So I think definitely have fun with your experiment and take notes so you can really grasp what's the best thing serving you overall. Before I move on to some of popular routines, let's see, would Trisha like to share or anyone else? And it's okay if not, you might be multitasking. Well, I'll move on, but please don't hesitate. Or were you going to unmute? Would you like to share, Trisha?
Unmute.
Yeah.
No, it's been fun to listen to everyone's goals. And one thing towards the end of 2023, I was definitely ramping up my exercise routine, and I do bar 3. And I had 2 college kids home for a month and they did it with me. And that was a really great accountability partner. So I'm still trying to do that, but already this week I've canceled my class twice because I don't have those accountability partners and it's called out. So that, but also I'm in my 50s. So the lifting weights is really important to me. So that's something I'm trying to incorporate more and more. So I feel really good about my wellness in terms of what I eat and supplements and good things like that. But 50 is definitely a different decade in terms of hormones in your body and a shift. So that's a little bit of a struggle, but to piggyback on Katie, the meal planning is always a tough one. But I liked what you said, like really keep it simplified, especially when you have young kids. If you can just like, you don't have to do anything crazy. It can be,
Grand.
a different form of tacos every Tuesday or whatever it is. But one goal I have right now is trying to start using a new recipe each week and just broadening, what we do. I have a few cookbooks that I really love with really good recipes in them. So just trying to add that into our routine, but also the seafood, like really, really trying to add more fish and seafood into our diet because it's not an easy thing that I can cook. It's not a go-to thing at all. So I'm trying to learn that. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing. And I kind of put you on the spot. So I appreciate
No,
it.
that's okay. I don't mind being put on the spot.
Yeah, my fastest meal ever is I open up my freezer, I get out frozen wild cod, I put it in a brownie Pyrex pan, and then I dump salsa verde, that's a green salsa, I get it from Trader Joe's, in it, and then I bake it. And then I'll pair that with polenta, black beans, peppers. But that's a weekly rotation for me. I'll just cook fish and salsa. And maybe it's the peach salsa, and Trader Joe's has such clean salsa, so I keep referencing them. A lot of salsas will have like chemicals like citric acid and various things in it, but Trader Joe's, they have all kinds of pineapple and peach and salsa verde and just mild and heat and but you can cook frozen fish from the freezer in 20 minutes and it's delicious. So there's a little idea there. Let me share some what people that have come before us who have accelerated their routines, what they're doing. So I'm going to kick off with Gwyneth Paltrow. She's a billionaire. Obviously, many of us know her as an actress. She's a mother of two. And she makes it work by skipping breakfast in favor of a smoothie. And a smoothie is something consistent with these names up here. Some of these names you might not recognize. It was just successful entrepreneurs that I pulled their routines from. But she doesn't necessarily eat her first meal. She has a smoothie that's loaded with nutrients and protein, and she has a cappuccino with that. She doesn't, she's learned that moderating carbs at lunchtime gives her better energy. And she actually cut back on her 2 hour workouts down to 1 hour per day. So she found that what makes her successful is actually cutting back. And I think that's a common theme for 2024. We all are doing enough. We're all doing enough, but are we resting enough? Are we unwinding enough? Are we cutting out enough? So I wanted to pull that from Gwyneth. I got Cindy Crawford here, the beauty that we all know. She said, forget ice baths, the original super daily ritual of watching the sunrise from her jacuzzi in California is what she does on a daily basis. She has found gazing at the ocean from the tub is like her own meditation. Meditation is a common theme among many people. I love the book 10% Happier. If you're like, gosh, I just can't get into meditation, maybe read that book 10% Happier, and that could give you some inspiration. She follows it up with a green tea and a smoothie, go figure, with some greens and protein powder, and then 20 minutes of cardio and 30 minutes of weights on a daily basis for the most part. The beauty queen here in front of us, Oprah, one of the most influential women in the world. She rises at 7:10. I think that's funny. I set my alarm for 5:17. Like, I don't know if anyone else has those weird alarms or times to wake up, but she gets up at 7:10 and she starts her day the same way many of us do, by taking the dogs out for a walk. And then she will prep for her podcast. And let's see what other big thing she does. She does 2 workouts a day, and for her soul she does a lot of meditating or reads poetry. She ends each day with a bath to kind of support that neurosympathetic nervous system. Furthermore, Jennifer Aniston, when she's working, she goes at 4:30. She washes her face, good skin routine she has. She has hot lemon water and she meditates for 20 minutes. She avoids screens for the first hour of waking, and she has a smoothie. She also does a 30-minute spin class followed by some yoga for 40 minutes. I'm going to mispronounce this name, hopefully. She's a successful woman who's specialized in parenting, and she wakes up at 6. She writes in her journal. She does something spiritual. She sets an intention for the day, which I love, and then she'll meditate. So there's ongoing consistency with meditation, and I have found it really hard to get into. I mentioned I have the Peloton app, and I'll say the number one thing I do on my Peloton app is meditate with my kids at night before bed. We usually all come in one room, lay down, and then we do like a 5, 10, or 15-minute meditation. Her kids are in college now, but she listens to the radio or Pandora to capture her mood. And overall, she pretty much time blocks her day. Margot, she starts her day with yoga. It's the best way to prepare her mind. She too will marinate or meditate over a matcha latte. And she consumes wholesome foods without sugar throughout the day. I'm going to summarize as there's a lot to say here. Heather, here she talks about her number one productivity tip, and she finds it crucial to her success and using a planner every single day. And I agree with that. I have a calendar that I live off of, but I also have a pen and paper planner that I must cross off everything on my list. So I don't put a number of details on there, but I put a lot of things on there that I want to accomplish for the day. And I am much productive, much more organized, much more routine with a planner. Dr. Ashley, she says her daily habit that she credits to her success is understanding that she has two roles in her life, and both of those roles need to be satisfied independently. She's a founder of a business, but she's also a mom to a newborn. So these two titles don't often mesh, but she's has a nice system in place. So it's kind of identifying needs. Next up, I set a calendar reminder. This is for Sabrine. She sets a calendar reminder on her phone for 3 p.m. each day to say, "You are a strong woman. Keep an eye on your goals and keep pushing forward. Never give up." I think that's that mantra, that intention that I talked about kicking us off. And then last but not least, this Lori, she's learned the best way to get things done efficiently is to schedule everything. So scheduling is really important, and it's a common practice of the Dutch. I've been reading up on the Dutch. You know, they work 29 hours a week. They appreciate Nixon, appreciating time, downtime, and so much more. And there's a lot we can learn from that. But overall, whatever your routine is, it's going to be unique to you. There's going to be a domino. You need a domino that pushes the day in the right momentum, in the right direction. Whatever that domino or your needs are, it's unique. And you need to surely have boundaries, because we can't say yes to everything. This QR code here is the Gretchen Rubin quiz. I'm not sure if you've ever taken this quiz or have heard of this New York Times best seller author, but she has a quiz that distinguishes you of one of 4 tendencies of how you achieve a goal. Maybe you're an obliger, maybe you're a questioner, maybe you're an obliger, a questioner, an upholder, or a rebel. Upholders, they want to know what should be done and they do it. Questioners want all the justifications. Obligers, they want accountability, and rebels, they need to be loyal to what that goal is. Unfortunately, I'm a rebel. So it's harder to meet New Year's resolutions. If my goal is lose 5 pounds, I'll gain 6. So it's really interesting. But just knowing that about myself has helped me so much with whatever I'm trying to accomplish. So this QR code here is the 5 tendencies quiz. And you can just write down 5 tendencies quiz and it'll come up first on Google. But daily, you want to have a domino. Again, you want uniqueness and you want boundaries. So things to keep in mind with this is plan each day, at least the day or night before, especially if it comes to the food you want to eat. Always know what you're going to eat the next day to ensure you have it in stock, that you have some sort of plan. And with that, always have plan B food. So in my pantry, I have jerky, I have those beans I've referenced already, I have protein bars, I have dried dates. So if I have to pull something out of the pantry in 32 seconds and run out the door, I've got options. But plan what you're going to eat and do the day before. Also, certainly prioritize your health and fitness, because health is wealth. And overall, weave in some shape or form mindfulness and meditation. So let me talk about the biggest dominoes I see with my private clients and in practice. And this will be short and sweet as we're coming close on time. Organize. When we are organized, we can accomplish so much more. And there's actually research to support this far and wide, but research shows that an organized homes leads you to make decisions that are overall better for your health. So they had 2 categories of families. One category had more of per se messy home. The other group had more of an organized home. And they found when each group was presented either with an apple or chocolate, the more organized the home, the more often they opted for that apple. So research shows the more organized you are, the better decisions you may make. And maybe it's you don't have decision fatigue. Maybe you have a better idea of where things are, so you're not as stressed or burning your wick at both ends. But certainly if you organize your kitchen, your pantry, your freezer, your fridge, you can quickly have inventory of what you have on hand and what you can throw together for those meals. And I go into this for an hour plus with private clients just to figure out what they can specifically set up. Let's see here. Of course, too, minimalism. And the more we, again, it comes down to that decision fatigue. I per se have a uniform every day. Maybe you do too, but I have rotating black shirts that I wear a lot. And hopefully you feel motivated by that. Or maybe you have something like that in place, but also an organized bedroom and closet can also improve the quality of sleep. So a big domino is, can you take a moment to organize? And then I have a study here. Let me see. The 3 different experiments in 2013 looked at 2 groups of people. one whose homes were disorderly and ones who were tidy. So this is the Apple research I referenced. Overall, every small action you make in your life is powerful. So taking small steps and putting items in their home can help you build confidence and make healthier choices overall. Routine and organization grant you incredible power. One routine I have that tailors right into organization is I grocery shop when I know I have time at home to do some prep. So I ran to Trader Joe's Wednesday and I often go at night when it's not busy. Most people aren't grocery shopping, and I'll grocery shop. I'll come home, I'll chop up the carrots, I'll put my salad and ingredients in a salad spinner, and I'll just set myself up as I unload to get it all done in one sweep. I also have an app on my phone that I know exactly like, okay, we don't have food in the house. I'm going to look at that last grocery list and I can see what exactly I might need. That app I use on my phone, it's called AnyList, ANYLIST, AnyList. And it really helps me make grocery shopping efficient. And grocery shopping needs to be efficient because it'll help overall health be easier. I was kind of blown away when I was overseas. Every single person I met and hung out with and met up with old friends, they all order groceries to their home. And I know that's a common thing here, but it was just the dominating tactic, but that can help you find lost time. Another domino is nourishment. So make healthy food the obvious choice. So I talked about how I'll prep those veggies in my fridge, but also what you'll have at eye level in your fridge, eye level in your pantry can help influence that environmental behavior of what you choose to eat. So your brain, if you're hungry, is going to reach for those simple carbohydrates, no matter how healthy or sugary they are. But if you have better things at eye level, like nuts or I like lentil pasta. I'm thinking with eye level in my pantry. Those jerkies, the olives, those whole foods are more influential. Also in the fridge, I will have my vegetables in clear containers. But overall, think about how you can make healthy food an obvious choice by creating inventory, having things in stock, and making a list of Plan B meals. Plan B meals, my go-tos are usually some form of a smoothie. Maybe it's some form of vegetable, turkey, bacon, and over easy eggs. Maybe the go-to meal is a mason jar chia seed oatmeal mason jar meal. So I know what my Plan Bs are, but I also have that Plan A of an outline of meal planning. Overall, one of the best things you can do for your routine is to have anchored meals. And the research is far and wide. It'll improve your blood sugar control. And anchored meals would be having the meal around the same hour each day. It'll help you break down the nutrients from the whole foods you're eating. And research has shown, I'm going quickly here and to get all the gems in, but research has shown that of course, we're not chewing our food enough, but there's a study done on almonds. They're like, how many times do you need to chew almonds to actually extract the nutrients from those nuts? And they found almonds needed to be chewed 32 times. And I'll tell you, most people are chewing twice to 5 times. And maybe you fall in that camp, but make sure you're chewing your food, but also anchoring your meals on a daily basis can help you get more nutrients from your food, filling those nutrient gaps, supporting your metabolism, your energy, and more. Anchored meals, make sure you have a base of protein at each meal. We want to have at least 30 grams of protein to support our muscle synthesis. And as we age after the age of 28, we lose 1% of muscle mass per year, which will dictate body fat versus muscle mass and how well you can achieve weight loss and lean out. So really make sure you're supporting the need of having protein in every meal and that you hit close to that 30 grams more if you're a male. And that'll support your blood sugars, that'll support your satiety, that'll support your bone health, your hormone balance, and much more. If you have enough protein at your first meal of the day, it'll help you eat fewer snacks throughout the day and up to 300 to 500 fewer calories. And that's a matter of the protein in your first meal of the day supporting blood sugar levels. So the more blood sugar levels move, the more cravings and eating that takes place. Overall. So with anchored meals, it's ideal to have at least 3 meals. Some people will say, well, I do intermittent fasting or time restricted eating, so I only eat twice a day. And eating twice a day is not enough to support muscle mass, bone health, and much more. So if you do some form of time restricted eating, more is not always better, but do know, still implement 3 meals a day. Overall, wearing a CGM, I mentioned my program, and actually some people on the call have done it. Wearing a CGM can help you identify, like, is your routine, is your lifestyle, are your foods really serving you? But our body all has, all the organs in our body have a circadian rhythm or body clock, and we need to support the circadian rhythm. So yes, we need 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night, but it's much healthier to get that sleep and be asleep by 11 p.m. So from 11 p.m. to 2 a.m., that's when the liver does most of its cleansing. And if we're not asleep, it won't have that process. It's important, as I've mentioned, to detox on a daily basis, but also have resources like a real food cleanse. But we really need to support our body clock. And when we don't sleep, our blood sugars will rise the following day, if not the next 2 days or more. So we really need to support sleep, but your blood sugars can tell you a lot about how well your lifestyle is working for you. And then 2 more things to go. This 3-2-1 bedtime routine is just so loved by my clients, and it's easy to remember. So my number one intention is to support my sleep more than ever. And 3 hours before bed, ideally no food. 2 hours before bed, no work. My brain likes to run. And 1 hour before bed, no screens. People are talking about fitness as a vision and strength, a vision for the year 2024. When you are on screens, granted, we all get lured into social media, really filter out who you're following, because it can have a dramatic impact on your optimism, your positivity, and accountability by following, maybe it's recipes, maybe it's following fitness gurus versus, gossipy, reality TV show people or whatever it might be. But really have a look at what gets into your inbox and who you follow on your social media to set yourself up the best shape you can. Last but not least, make sure you carve out downtime. Do, delete, delegate, and say no to everything that's not a hell yes. It is so important that we unwind more. If you had 6 days in the week, if your week was suddenly it's every week is 6 days, what would you get rid of? What do you think you would get rid of? What is something that's just maybe frustrating, aggravating, or just not worth your time? And then on the flip side, what would you do if you had 8 days in your week? What would you add more of? With those 2 answers, think about how you need to change your routines, your daily, your weekly, your monthly schedule. And maybe what you would add more of is get outside. And maybe get outside can help you be where your feet are. It can help you practice doing less with work and so forth. Because, the funny thing is, and I say it often, is according to Buddha, is this, the funny thing is we think we have time and we're not guaranteed anything. So is it really worth burning your wick at both ends and not really appreciating your family and this, that, and the other? And this is all easier said than done. But I often think about the funny thing is I think I have time, but I need to make the most of today. I need to make the most of this week, and I need to love myself and love the people around me and make this journey on this planet the best possible. So with that, your routines, just reflect on what you're doing, what you want to change. Look at what you can organize in your home, your office, your car, your calendar. Simplify, and then simplify more. Respond to whatever you reflected in what you want to organize and actually take action, and then repeat as often as possible. Overall, I think we're just right up on the hour, a minute to go. I was curious what people's best practices were, and also questions. So I'm just going to open it up and let you guys ask me your questions. It looks like some of us had to hop off. Does anyone have questions for me? And I'm curious, do you feel inspired? Do you feel like you heard something a little unconventional or new?
Definitely inspiring, encouraging. I love
Awesome.
your nighttime routine. It's interesting because I got a Aura ring for Christmas. So I've been tracking my sleep, and that's been kind of enlightening. And luckily I've been almost optimal every night. I've only had a few
Awesome.
good nights. But it's actually a challenge now. And I'm trying to get into bed and just also do the read in bed downtime thing earlier. And sometimes
Yeah.
I'll be down in the family room, why don't you just go upstairs and start the night? But it's funny thinking about not eating for 3 hours before. If you're, you really have to cut off and think about that, because if you're trying for that 10 o'clock bedtime, you have to be done by 7. And sometimes that's hard if you do a later dinner, but I think it's good to do.
Yeah. The biggest healthy change people can make is not eating late. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Maintaining muscle mass. If you have insulin circulating in your body, you won't have growth hormone circulating. So it's a teeter-totter relationship. And we want growth hormone circulating to help repair and enhance muscle. So blood sugars will be skewed, muscle mass might be more depleted, and quality of sleep just might be less if it's got to digest food. And it's harder for the body to digest when we're lateral. So we want gravity to be our friend, pull that food down. But all the reasons. And if you have to eat late, it happens, but eat light. Make it lighter. Because I know we have all the sports going on right now with the kiddos and makes it harder with carpool. Sometimes that turns into a smoothie for dinner, but probably 2% of the time. Maybe I'll try to focus on getting that more. But anyone else have questions?
I was just going to say, Kelly, thank you so much. I have to scoot to get to another meeting for work. But thanks for everything. It was really great to hear from you.
Awesome. One other thing I'll say for people trying to work with hormonal weight gain, one of my biggest tips is one, we're all unique, but two, it comes down to this giant conversation on protein and your macronutrients. So as we age, we become more insulin resistant because we have estrogen drop off. Estrogen helps us be more insulin sensitive. So if depleting estrogen, we become more insulin resistant and blood sugars are harder to control. But it's really important if you threw all your daily intake into a MyFitnessPal or a food tracking app, you want your protein to be equal or higher than total carbohydrates. That does not mean go to keto land. That does not mean go to keto land, a ketogenic diet, but really have an eye on how many carbohydrates you're getting and have at least 30 grams of protein per meal to optimize your blood sugar balance as we go through the second puberty or menopausal years. You all will be on my Sunday newsletter. This coming Sunday, I'm advertising, I'm doing 3 more workshops on women's health for each season of life. Next Friday is my first one, it's targeted for ages 18 to 35. But that webinar is going to be very foundational on what we could do for women's health. But then the next webinar, the second one, it'll be 2 weeks later. That's going to be on peri and premenopause. And then the third webinar, which is, I think, February 24th, later in February, is going to be on menopause and postmenopause. So I'll give specific tactics and education on these seasons of life. But keep an eye out on my Sunday newsletter, and you'll be able to register from there. But thank you for joining me today. I hope it wasn't too much material, and I hope you got a little more clarity on what you can do for yourself.
Yeah, Kelly, which tracking apps do you like or are good?
Well, I actually, one, the go-to is MyFitnessPal, but two, there's this new one coming out I'm going to likely partner with. I got an email yesterday. But MyFitnessPal, don't pay for the upgrade. You don't need that, but just MyFitnessPal is the easiest, I think.
Okay.
Thanks, Kelly.
Yeah, thank
Thanks,
you.
Katie. Thank you both.
Take care, everybody.
Have a
Stay
great
warm.
weekend.
Bye.